Hey folks, it's Bill with Dine Drink Cruise. What I want to talk with you about for just a few minutes today is how to budget for your next cruise. If you haven't been on one lately, or if you're planning your first cruise ever, you probably are just now starting to figure out that there's a whole lot of additional expenses involved. What I want to do for just a few minutes is talk to you about what some of those are so you can be prepared and make a well-informed choice for your family. The first thing that comes up is what's actually on the screen, and you would think that that's just your cruise fare, right? It's not. There's a whole lot more that goes into it. On the screen, when you book your cruise for the first time, there's going to be your cruise fare, there's going to be taxes, there's going to be gratuities, and optional items such as insurance. So the gratuities are increasingly becoming a service charge which you have to pay, but honestly, you really ought to book that as just part of your cruise because that's a major part of the compensation of the people such as the wait staff and the service attendants and stuff like that. Still, before you ever put your deposit down, you know what those figures are, so again, you can make an informed choice about what makes sense for your family. But once you've got that, then you get into the serious travel preparation, and the next thing I would encourage you to budget for is passports. And notice I didn't say travel documents. I specifically said a passport. If you're a citizen of the United States, a U.S. passport. If you're a citizen of somewhere else, a passport from that country. Because even if the rules allow you to travel with some other document, that's going to be a problem if you wind up having a challenge overseas, if you need to get back suddenly, if you lose your documents, if something like that happens. And of course, that's a pretty small proposition, but it's still something you want to be prepared for. I've actually got a whole separate video on this, but prepare for the cost of acquiring U.S. passports. Next, you've got to plan for the cost of getting to the pier, unless you just happen to live by wherever that you're going to take off from, right? Like if you live in Galveston, great, but if you don't, you've got to get to the pier. That may be a flight or a car, but you'll want to budget that in. And then there's a next expense. Assuming you've flown in, you've got to account for the cost of getting from the airport to the cruise pier. Now, I encourage you to do that a day before, just in case something goes wrong, but that means you need to budget in the cost of a hotel or something like that. If you drove in, you'll need to budget in the cost of parking. And I'm not saying these things to discourage you. I just want to give you a realistic idea of what the expenses are when you're planning for a cruise. After that, one of the expenses which happens on board is shore excursions. Now that's optional. You are free to just stay on the boat. You're free to get off the boat and just wander around the town depending on what the town is, whether it's safe, what the guidance is from the cruise line. But you're going on a big international vacation. You're probably going to want to budget some money for shore excursions. How much those cost is going to vary widely. Sometimes there's inexpensive ones. Sometimes you can spend several $100s. The things that my family and I tend to do most of the time tend to cost $75 or $100 a person. There are also the much cheaper options which are available to you. The final thing that you'll need to plan for is onboard expenses. Maybe you're going to want to take a class. Your food is included, but your alcohol is not going to be included. You may want to do some shopping. They're going to have sales on things like t-shirts or watches or other things like that. So make a budget for onboard expenses, and if you're bringing your kids with you, make sure and set a budget for them and what their onboard expenses are going to be. Is that a comprehensive list of everything which goes into planning and budgeting for a cruise? No, it's not. It is, however, a pretty good list of things to think about. I love cruises. We're looking forward to our next couple. But before you do that, you need to get an idea of what the expenses are going to be. So it's everything that appears on the screen, which is your cruise fare, taxes, gratuities, insurance, other stuff like that. Your passports, you've got to get to the pier. You may need a hotel if you're going to get there a day early, which is something that I always encourage. The expense of getting between the airport and then the cruise pier, parking if you're going to park, or a shuttle, from the airport to the cruise pier, your shore excursions and your onboard activities. One last note, with the shore excursions and onboard activities, those are absolutely optional. A lot of people go on cruises and don't spend an extra dime. That is absolutely a choice you can make, and you can have a fantastic time. You've just got to figure out what's appropriate to you and your family. I hope this video has been helpful to you. What we're going to try to do over the next couple of months is bring you some short and focused videos answering particular questions about cruising while we get ready to go on board our next ship. Please ask us any questions in the comments section down below, and thanks so much. Happy travels!